We're talking about the offensive line today. Georgia's 2025 offensive line. Are we excited about it? Are we optimistic about it? Is it something else? We'll talk about it today on the Locked On Bulldogs podcast.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. He is Daniel. I'm Clint. Together, we are Locked On Bulldogs. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. Thank you for the everydayers that are here every single day and the loyal third segment listeners that listen to the end. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel.com. More on them in a moment. Daniel, we're talking about the offensive line today, and of note because we were not great. That's the best I can put forward. We were not great. If I was to be more sincere and talk like fans do, because that's just in
what we're about.
Okay. It was nauseating watching no one be able to dominate and move the line of scrimmage from one point to the other, from one game or one half all the way through. It felt like we were holding our breath the entire time. We saw little flashes, little shimmers here and there of a perfect U in pass protection. We thought at times that was actually exceptional. That was one of the best aspects of this offense, was the pass pro in certain situations. But on the whole, Daniel, to say that this group underperformed would be generous once more. We weren't happy with the offensive line play coming into this season. We're gonna talk about who's sticking around. This just in. Just a few, like just maybe 5 snaps altogether is who we're keeping on this offensive line.
More
than that. But we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about Stacey Searles. He's still around. And who do we need to step up in a mighty big way coming into this season? And how I want to frame this, Daniel, is last year we heard Kirby Smart say we kind of got the hint that this offensive line might not be that great. Very beginning of the season, Kirby said it himself. A couple of pressers coming out of camp said, I got 5, maybe 6 guys I trust. And you and I both went, oh no. Because that's not competition at that point. That's just barely filling the starting 5 out. He came out of camp saying that. We were inclined to believe him. We didn't. We thought higher, and we should have just taken the man at his word, Daniel, because it was bad.
It wasn't a great performance top to bottom from the offensive line. Georgia's sack numbers were not particularly great. Gave up something like 30 sacks in 14 games. And so not stellar there, but obviously 14th in the SEC in rushing. It's been well documented. Worse than 100th nationally in rushing was Georgia. And so the offensive line did not do its job. And I don't think it's throwing anyone unnecessarily under the bus or being unfair for us to say that. Now, the question is, why? What was the cause? And is that cause fixable? And then subsequently, will it be fixed? If the cause is coaching, as Georgia fans fear that it is, have clamored that it is, have been downright adamant that it is, if the problem is coaching, Stacey Searles, well documented, still on staff, has not been fired, will not be fired heading into this season, is going to maintain the reins as the position group coach. And so if that was the problem, then I'd say you have to feel like there is a cap on this Georgia offensive line. Now, maybe they will continue to grow and continue to perform well, maybe better than they did last year. But you have to feel like there is a cap. If the problem was something other than coaching, like the players, the chemistry, the makeup, the circumstances, something like that, then you would tend, Clint, to be a bit more optimistic and think, well, maybe the problem can be fixed. There are, after all, new players coming in. There are, after all, there's going to be a lot of turnover. There's going to be a lot of roster movement. I don't think a deep dive into the roster, which we will do maybe in segment 2, we'll get into like who left, who's coming back, guys to watch, names to watch, all of that. But just as a bit of a spoiler, I don't think that the deep dive into the roster is going to give you, the listener, a ton of confidence that, in fact, that is a possible solution to the problem of poor offensive line play moving forward this year. And so here's where I'm going to kind of give my big picture thought.
Okay.
If Georgia's offensive line in 2025 is going to perform better than it did in 2024, and it didn't, 100 nationally in rushing, it's not good.
No.
Not like the offensive line was the worst unit I can ever remember seeing at the University of Georgia. That's certainly not the case. But if Georgia's offensive line is going to perform better in 2025, I'm going to say, Clint, the most likely reason will be because of an overall offensive philosophical shift, and not because of a coaching change, philosophical coaching change in terms of offense, the way the offensive line is taught or developed, nor will it be because of fresh blood, even though we will get some of that, new talent, new players contributing. I think if the offensive line is going to perform better, it's going to be because of a philosophical Mike Bobo-led shift in the way that we run our offense. What are your thoughts on that?
That's really interesting, Daniel, because all of a sudden everybody listening to the podcast heard you say the two words that have brought them so much consternation already this offseason, and that's Mike Bobo. Here's the deal. I do not think I'm going to list a couple of coaches who have a system in place and their system never changes. You get wrinkles in it. Okay. The Gus Bus has wrinkles in his system, but the Gus Bus can't coach at major top end universities anymore because no one will run his system because it can't. He is a system upon system guy within that. Okay?
Sure. You're saying UCF is not a major university? They won that national championship, Clint.
Yeah, they printed everything out. I understand, Daniel.
Alabama will tell you, if you just claim a national championship, it is yours. Yeah. It helps if it was from like 80 years ago, like pre-Civil War. But like if you just claim it, then no one can argue with you.
What Daniel's talking about, and I'm going to go somewhere, and I'm going to say the name, and all of you are going to be like, yeah, we need to actually give him the bucks to come into Georgia. Georgia Tech had a philosophical change in their system. Yes, the triple option with just running a guy in off the sideline with the play call, which was one.
That's the only way to get it in there, Clint.
It's the only way to get it in. The only way.
We haven't found another way. Science doesn't know. No.
Faulkner and the guys over there, Buster is doing some things. Okay. Yeah. But it's a philosophical difference change. It's not Lincoln Riley. Again, Lincoln Riley, this just in, not a good head coach. He is more Gus Bus than he is anybody else because he doesn't have a philosophical change. I don't hate what you're saying. I think what you're saying is Mike Bobo needs to get back to some of the things that really, really made Georgia, Georgia. And he, by the way, he knows those things because he helped make Georgia, Georgia on a bunch of those fronts. We had bad running back play. We had bad offensive line continuity. We had a quarterback who was turnover prone the entire season, and we couldn't get on script. I think reprioritizing and kind of doing some house cleaning on the playbook, but also philosophical differences. I don't hate it, Daniel, at all. We're going to come back after this. We're going to talk about what we see for this offensive line, who's coming in, who's going out, who's going to be sticking around. But first, these. And these are unfact TurboTax. TurboTax. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes, it's awful waiting and wondering and worrying if you're going to get any money back.
You don't want that.
No. Why are you going to keep on waiting and wondering and worrying more? Now, Taxes is matching with TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives you taxes, who gives your taxes their individual attention as they work on your return, where you get real-time updates on their progress so you can focus on your day. An expert who will find every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything for 100% accuracy. All you have to do is sit back, relax, and you know you have a money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. This is taxes. Get an expert now. TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live, full service, real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at TurboTax.com/guarantees.
All right, Clint, let's jump in to the players. It's well documented that it's less about the Jimmies or less about the X's and O's than it is about the Jimmies and Joes. And so let's talk about who is actually going to be playing offensive line, because this just in, it ain't Mike Bobo, it ain't Stacy Searles, it ain't Kirby Smart. Those aren't the people that are going to have to go out there and block people, move people, significantly impact the line of scrimmage in 2025. Who are the people that are going to do that? Well, you mentioned a lot of turnover in terms of snap count, which is partly true and partly not true.
That's right.
Georgia has technically 4 out of their 5 starters from the majority of last season gone. Now,
Correct.
That would be Xavier Truss, Tate Ratledge, Jared Wilson, and Dylan Fairchild. That would be the 4 out of the 5. In case you forgot, Ernest Green and Monroe Freeling rotated in the 5th spot. 4 out of those 5 guys are gone. But both of those tackles, Ernest Green and Monroe Freeling, are actually back. And so you have 2 starting tackles. Now, you can say whatever you want to say about them. I think both of them performed well at times last year. That's fair to say.
It's fair at times they did fine.
And both of them performed at times in a way that made me want to reach for a bucket quickly. Monroe Freeling was pulled in the middle of the Sugar Bowl, and rightfully so, because good Lord in heaven, he may have been the reason that Georgia lost the game. Now, he doesn't cover kickoffs, but he may have been a huge reason why Georgia lost that game. He was absolutely getting destroyed on the left side. Ernest Green came in and played better in the second half.
He did.
In that game. Ernest Green early in the year got benched for Monroe Freeling, dealt with some injury issues. Both those tackles are back. You also, Clint, have Micah Morris, who's coming back, who has been, while never a starter in his Georgia career. I mean, he has started games before, but never an entrenched starter. I think we would both agree that Micah Morris has shown us flashes that he is a very interesting and useful piece on the offensive line.
Absolutely.
Micah Morris is a people mover.
That's
Clint. And I don't mean an old-fashioned ride at Disney. Like, that's not, I mean, he absolutely moves people on the interior. This is a Solomon Kinley, for those of you that want a reference. This is a Solomon Kinley type of player. We both love Solly in his Georgia career. And I think Micah Morris has got a chance to be that same thing. So you have, if I may, Clint, you have 2 tackles coming back. You could say what you will about the way that they performed. You have 2 tackles coming back, both with significant starting experience. And you have a guard coming back who has significant experience. I think you would say a body of work that certainly would demand that you take him seriously. And then you got 2 other spots. Those other 2 spots, center and the other guard spot, I think you're going to have fresh faces in here. Probably there's going to be a Bobo starting at center. It, by all accounts, it seems like, I mean, certainly by all accounts, when Jared Wilson was injured in the middle of the season.
I was just going to say.
Yeah, Drew Bobo got plenty of reps. He was the guy.
He was.
He's back. There's no reason to think that anybody on this depth chart would have passed him, given the position that he plays, center, one of the most cerebral and important positions to have experience and continuity on the offense. And so you wouldn't think anybody was going to come in and pass him for that spot. So it seems like it's Drew Bobo's to lose in the middle. So you feel like you know who you have there. A guy who has SEC starting experience, Clint, albeit just for a couple games. And then you got that last spot at guard. It's pretty wide open, I think. I think you could see a lot of different names getting thrown around. So is it going to be a younger player? Is it going to be a more experienced veteran player? Time will tell on that other guard spot. It's going to be a fresh face. It's not going to be a true freshman, because I don't think any of the true freshmen offensive linemen are in line to play this year. I don't think you have one of those on this recruiting class. And so you're going to see a guy like Daniel Calhoun or somebody like that who is probably going to come in and take over that left guard, right guard spot, whichever spot Micah Morris is not in. When I name all those names, Clint, yes, you lost a lot of significant contributors, right?
Sure.
Dylan Fairchild and Tate Ratledge, their experience cannot be quantified on the offensive line. But it's not like you got a bunch of noobs coming in.
No, sir. No, sir.
How does it make you feel as I rattle off all those names? Give us, I gave sort of the facts. You give the analysis. What are we to make of what I just said?
Here's what you're to make. Manura Freeling, Ernest Green. Ernest Green last year, not 2 years ago and last year, showed flashes of being the guy that we thought could lock down a left tackle position. If I'm making a bet right now, I think he can go ahead and lock it down because he has the experience, he has the kick, he has the speed and the agility to stay out there on that side. I really like his footwork. I think he can clean it up. And I think with a little bit more in the weight room and the strength room, I think he's going to be fine. So I think if you hear that, okay, that's one piece down. The second piece, Monroe Freeling did fine in times. And he was thrust into a couple bad positions, a couple real unfortunate for him because he wasn't given the time to catch up. I think the game experience he had, him at right tackle makes a lot of sense for me. So I'm feeling good. Now, I'm not saying great, but I'm feeling good with the tackles. Their ceiling is not as high as previous times, but I think they bring up the floor. And like you said, the Sugar Bowl, all we needed was a floor that was don't get beat in under 2 seconds off the edge. That's all I was hoping for. It's not that high of a bar. Okay.
I wish it were higher if I'm being honest.
I wish it was higher.
Yeah.
Now, of all the names that you told me and listed through, the philosophical change is going to be the soft underbelly of the Georgia defense was really, really frustrating for us. The soft belly of this offensive line on the interior. I know Tate was apparently this mauler. I saw it at times. Truth be told, I did not like Tate at right guard for us most of the year. I know he was experienced. I know he did fine, but it wasn't the tenacity I really, really wanted from. Fairchild did well, did fine. Names you listed were good, but I think the interior side, that's where you see the running attack get most of its movement is the interior offensive line. And by the way, we're not calling them guard, center, guard. They're very interchangeable. Case in point, Mike Bobo came in as a tackle to Georgia. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what he slides on in to center. I think he's going to be fine. I think you need a guy who is smart and can set the defense. That's what we missed a lot. Cedric Van Pran last year or 2 years ago. We really missed him this year, and it was very evident, Daniel. Very evident. So of all the names you listed to me, Micah Morris, his most notable thing coming in, by the way, this guy has been around for a very long time in the program. Top 100 as a recruit. Senior coming in this year. His most notable thing, he's 6'6", 320, and he has fast, quick cement hands that grade people. Give me Micah Morris locking down one. That's that philosophical change. I'm looking at other guys in this. Daniel Calhoun, the other thing, 6'6", 325. If you're going to go ahead and rate him, the thing that you're going to go and rate him at is also the ability to power. He's not an edge guy. He played defensive line in high school. He's not an edge guy. He's an interior guy. He's moving bodies around. I think Calhoun will absolutely 100% be the guy that gets into this conversation at a guard position. And then Drew Bobo, I think, is going to be fine at the center. If you're telling me of all those names I just listed, if that was my composition of an offensive line so far, I'm feeling it's an upgrade on the interior compared to last year is what I'm going to say. And I know we had Tate.
That's wild. It's wild that you would say that, Clint.
But I don't like saying that, Daniel. Like, I saw the production of less. We were not in the top 100 rushing and not in the top 14 not top 13, 14th in the SEC in rushing. That's my number one pet peeve of this offense going into next year. Number one pet peeve. The national championship winning Ohio State Buckeyes won with a fraudulent quarterback and a run game led by two very elite running backs behind an offensive line that got to move bodies. Notre Dame got there because Love found open areas and because Riley Leonard could find sneaky spots to get a couple yards. Y'all, stop telling me you want to be USC. I don't. National championship winning teams. Michigan. I don't need to keep doing this. I won our interior offensive line and we were bad last year. I think the only way is to go up. Can't be worse, Daniel. Can it?
Don't ask questions, Clint, that you don't want to know the answer to. That's something that I've learned as I've lived my life. And so I'm going to move on to segment 3. We're going to come back. We're going to give you our overall impressions of whether or not that offensive line is going to get better or worse in 2025. But first, these.
And there's a FanDuel, FanDuel.com. They are fantastic. They are great. They're the only place, Daniel, I go. Every single time we want to make a sports wager, we go over to FanDuel. Why?
You know what I saw on TV the other day, Clint?
Tell me.
I saw an ad for the Masters. And it reminded me that FanDuel is about to get a large deposit from me, and I am going to be betting on the Masters. March Madness coming up. The NBA is in full swing. The Super Bowl is coming up. Like, whatever you need, FanDuel has got it. That's why this is the place we go. It's a one-stop shop.
Your boys last year picked the Masters winners, just so you're fully aware of what's happening on our side of it. Right now, FanDuel.com, $5 wager. You can get up to $200 in bonus bets straight to your account. You make a $5 wager, you win that wager. You might get $200 in bonus bets straight to your account. FanDuel.com, make every moment more.
All right, Clint, let's give some overall impressions of our takeaways on this. You mentioned the interior.
I did.
Micah Morris. We like Daniel Calhoun. Drew Bobo seems like a guy that's going to be, that's going to be a factor. Marquise Easley, a young guy, could be a factor. If it's Calhoun and Morris and Bobo inside, I will say this. What Georgia might be losing in terms of savvy, experience, technique, I would say Georgia is upgrading in terms of its straight up ability to physically hurt people up front. I'm talking about make them wish they had never signed up to play football.
Correct.
That is what those guys are able to do. And you talk about a Georgia offense. Is it going to want to run the quarterback more than it ran the quarterback last year, Clint? Yes, sir. Is it going to want to run the football more than it ran the football last year, Clint? Is it going to want to put less decision-making pressure on the quarterback than it decided was a good idea to put on the quarterback last year, Clint?
Oh, no.
Yeah, it is. If Georgia is able to establish physicality up front, you might see some guys get whipped on a little game up front and absolutely get skunked, and Gunnar Stockton pay a price for it. You might see that. And that's just something, as a Georgia fan, you better hope Gunnar swallows that ball and does not fumble it, because he going to take a sack.
We've seen him do that before in a big moment, so he can do it again.
He going to take a sack.
Yeah.
But if Georgia's able to consistently run the ball with Nate Frazier, the Robinsons, etc., whoever it may be back there, I don't hate that as a trade-off.
It is a trade-off.
It is a trade-off.
People have to realize this. And this coming year, I think if I was just to ask Georgia fan, this coming year, are you willing to take a risk?
Here we go.
Because we had a lot of continuity. Daniel
I've seen continuity before.
We talked about this offense all off season last year.
Yeah, we said words like the depth at wide receiver. We said those words. Those were words that we said.
We're idiots. Okay.
If you don't know that by now, welcome to the show. Please subscribe. We're telling you up front that we're idiots.
Okay. Well, it's 24 minutes in, but you get the point. We're being honest about
We're
it. Being
telling you in the
transparent.
first episode that you listened to that we're
That's
idiots.
right.
We're such idiots. We think that losing by the same amount of points to Florida that Tennessee lost to Florida by doesn't mean that you're out of the tournament. That's all we're saying. We're such idiots that we would believe that.
Correct.
We're such idiots that we believe that
I started
losing 2 games by a total of 5 points isn't we're getting blown out consistently. I don't know. That's just a crazy thing that we think.
Crazy thing that we think. We take logic. We are fans, but we do. In fact, 2 things can be true. We are famous for saying so. Here's the thing that is true. You're going to trade off continuity. We had continuity coming over from last year. Xavier Truss been there for a hot minute. Tate Ratledge. We had the people. Wide receiver. We had the people. We had ETN in the portal. He had experience before. He was the best transfer running back you could get. It turns out that Carson Beck coming back for another year. He's going to lead this high power. Turns out none of that was true.
That was real.
So if you're telling me that I get a chance to go ahead and get some guys, Micah Moore's been here a hot minute, senior, stayed in the program. Okay, give me him anywhere. Anywhere on the line. Daniel Calhoun, big old nasty dude who has that streak in him. Yeah, give me. How about Easley as well? I mean, I want to see new faces, new blood everywhere. And if you, like you said, we're going to risk some things. And Cass Jones, y'all, I don't know how many more years of eligibility that man has.
Eligibility is a myth, Clint.
That's right. I forgot. Thank you for telling me. Eligibility is a myth.
Mm-hmm.
Blitz pickup is going to be.
Yeah, we got 6 offensive linemen when Cash in the game. You understand? He put his chin right in there. You ready for my Caliente take to end this on this offensive line discussion?
I already said the interior offensive line is going to be better than last year, and Tate Ratledge might go in the second round, Daniel.
Listen, I hear you naming all those new blood names. Let me tell you this. Don't sleep on one of those tackles not winning the starting job, Clint. Don't sleep on, we got 2 tackles. Oh, they both played last year. Oh, they're both experienced. Oh, I guess we're going to just pencil them in to the starting rotation. Don't sleep on one of those tackles not winning the starting job. Bo Hewley, Clint?
I was just going to say, Daniel, I want you to name it because my shot.
That's my shot right there.
Thank you.
Listen, old Bo, he's got all the measurables.
Oh, 6'7", 280, and he ain't 280 no more. Okay,
he's been in the program, junior year. All right. Mm-hmm. He ain't transferred, Clint. Did you notice that he ain't transferred nowhere?
Oh, I noticed, and he was top 100 in the nation when he was signed with Georgia. Daniel,
that's right. No, he's valuable commodity, but he ain't. He just decided, I'm gonna wait my turn.
Yes, sir.
Right here.
Yes, sir.
It's interesting. I'm just telling you. I wouldn't just jump all over myself to pencil those 2 tackles in at the beginning of the season. I'm not saying one of them's definitely going to get beat, but if you think it's not a possibility, Georgia's got some other tackles on this team now.
And that's what I mean, the floor of those tackles. Those are the floor of those 2 tackles. You telling me that we can combine those, put on one side of the offensive line and have Bo over there on the other? Again, upside, bring it all day long. He is Daniel. I'm Clint today. Thank you for being with us. Your first listen, your everydayers. Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
See ya.